All right. Hey, what's going on? Here we are again. Another lesson in Paulo's home studio / bedroom. Today, what I want to look at is stuff to do. I want to apply what we looked at in previous lessons to the 6-string electric guitar. There's a couple different things to keep in mind here when you're considering the 6-string guitar, but one of the things that I want to point out that maybe you haven't thought about before is it's really good to be aware of the difference in tuning from the 6-string guitar to the bass guitar. Okay, now let's remind ourselves what are the tunings of each individual standard 6-string guitar, and let's compare them by intervals, because on the bass, remember I told you, I mentioned before, and is that physically the top 4 strings on the guitar / four lowest sounding strings on the guitar are the same as the bass pitches, just different octaves. So you have E, A, D, and G, right? But so let's look at those intervals. So they're all the same interval between each other, so they are related to each other in the same by the same interval. So E to A is a fourth, right? It's a fourth up. A to D, that's another fourth up. D to G, that's another fourth up, right? So they're separated by fourths. This is why on the bass, if you learn a certain finger pattern for the excuse me, for the major scale, or for any scale really, all you have to do is shift your hand, and as long as you're doing the same finger pattern, it's going to be the same scale but in a different key, right? So let's remind ourselves of that. So the key of A major, starting from the E string on the 5th fret, right? That's A major. And just like on the bass, if I move up, as in up in pitch, 2 frets, now I'm in the key of B, right? If I have the same finger pattern, right, it's still a major scale, but now in the key of B. That's what makes it easy to just learn a finger pattern and be able to move around on the bass and on the guitar, as long as it's the same top 4 strings, just like on a bass, which is similar to a bass. Now, let's look at the other 2 strings, because that intervallic relationship doesn't stay the same, and that's why you can't keep going. If I'm here on an A, right, and then I move up a fret, or up a string on the same fret, that would be D, so it would be D major. That works because we're still on those 4 strings. Let's go to the next one. Instead of starting on this D, we're starting on this G. No, that doesn't sound right. And the reason for that, because now I'm playing on the 5th string here. Remember, when I refer to strings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's always counting from the top down. Top down physically, but bottom up from what you what's heard, or sounding is what I should say. So let's remind ourselves what all the strings are. So D, A, E, A, D, G. Next is B, right? The 5th string is B, and then E is the last string on the bottom / the highest string. So we already went through those other 4 strings. What about that 5th string? What's the intervallic relationship? G to B, it's not a fourth, it's a major third. And then from the D to B to E, that's a fourth again. So when you move over to the 2 highest strings, you actually have to shift by a half step, okay, in order for the pattern to work. So let's look at it from this standpoint. So again, this is just let me just remind you that the reason that I'm doing this is because I want you guys to be able to play this stuff on the guitar, or play your major scales on your guitar, but also recognize that when you're doing these finger patterns for these scales, that you have to shift when you get over to the two highest strings, the B and the E string. So let's go from, let's play G major, starting on the 5th fret on the 3rd string, okay? So you see, instead of staying right here where all my fingers are assigned to specific frets, I had to shift up higher in pitch, which means moving down the fretboard, and so that makes the scale work. Let me do it again. Shift. And there we are. And then shift back. Because I'm shifting over here when I go to the D string, and I'm shifting back to where I was before, another fret, where my index is on fret 4. Okay? One more time without stopping. Ah, my bad. Okay. Now, just like before, let's move over so we have a different set of frets. Okay? Same sort of thing. Here's a C major scale from the, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fret on the top string. Ah, I keep messing up. My bad. Right? Let's go to the next string, same frets. So now we're F. Okay? Next string. So B flat. See, I had to shift because I'm going to that other string. Now, if we do it one more time, we're going to be using both of the highest strings. So I'm going to shift and leave my hand there. So what is this? E flat. E flat major from the 7th fret, no, 8th fret, right, on the 4th string. So I'm only going to play 2 notes, and then I got to shift right away, right? Because automatically I'm going to be on the B string right away. All right, I forgot my own advice, so let me try it one more time. Excuse me. Right? So this is just to point out that you got to keep that stuff in mind, especially when you're playing melodies and everything. This also applies to figuring out melodies on the guitar, where you're going to be coming up here and using the higher strings. I'll send you another video about that, but it's the same sort of concept. It's just to keep that in mind. But I don't want you to only play the major scales according to just the fingerings and not really knowing where you're going or what you're playing. I want you to be aware of this and actually using that to your advantage, and actually being aware of what scale you're playing so that you could better understand where the notes are all over the fretboard. I mentioned this in the earlier keyboard video. When you're running your major scales in this way, get in the habit of focusing on a major scale and saying the notes as you play them, so that you can further internalize where the notes are on the fretboard. There are so many frets and so many and 6 strings. I mean, there's what? I mean, I'm sure there's a number out there for how many notes are available on each of these strings. But the best thing you can do is work on it little by little, so you can start to really learn where the notes are, where, you know, along these strings. So going back from A, you know, learning your major scales and saying them out loud as you're playing them is going to be really beneficial as well. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, right? And then go back down, which is a little bit harder because you're going backwards on the musical alphabet. So check that out, work on that. And as I mentioned before, don't learn your scale, a specific scale, only in one place. There's so many different places you can do it. So just keep in mind that when you move over here, or you move lower on the fretboard to the higher sounding strings, that you have to do that shift in order for it to be correct. Get to the practice room and work on it. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope this made sense and that you're into it and that you're going to work on it. Take it easy. See you next time. Peace.